Hello, and welcome to the month of Spooky 2023. Scary stories are a part of life. We've been telling them since the dawn of man over campfires, radio broadcasts, television, and these days, social media. They remind us of our own mortality, get our adrenaline going, and send chills through our bodies that, well, we just can't explain. During this month, you can expect the unexpected, hear the unbelievable, and witness stories that will stretch your imagination. Why? Because that is what we do here at Ron's Amazing Stories. So settle in for the spooky and be prepared to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the...
Ron, I have another story for you to read.
What? Are we ever going to get back to the 5-minute mysteries?
I certainly hope not. These are so much better.
Well, OP, I think that is your opinion. The Door with No Number by Zoe Marland. A man had just moved into an apartment and headed to the office to get his keys. The manager gave them to him with a smile, but warned him never to disturb the door with no number on his floor. He wondered why, but didn't bother to ask. He was too busy with his new apartment to care. After he finished unpacking, he began to get curious. He questioned why the manager would warn him of such things, and so he stepped out of his apartment to check the door with no number. First, he tried the doorknob, but it was locked, so he instead got on his knees and peeked through the keyhole. The apartment was empty. He scanned the whole place before spying a woman. She was standing at the window with her face pressed up against it. She had pale skin and long black hair. He stepped back, suddenly feeling perverted about invading someone's privacy. He brushed it off, assuming that, well, she probably just doesn't want to be disturbed. The next day, he got more curious about the woman and went back. Again, he got on his knees. He peeked through the keyhole, but all he saw was red. He assumed that the pale woman must have caught him peeking the last time and covered the hole with something red. He left the door and went down to the manager's office to ask some questions. She sighed and asked, "You looked through the keyhole, didn't you?" He admitted to it, and so she felt obliged to tell him the story. A couple used to live in that apartment a long time ago, but the husband went crazy and killed his wife. He then jumped out of the window and fell to his death. Before he died, the police asked him, "Why?" With his last breath, he whispered, "It was her black hair, pale skin, and those damnable red eyes."
See, I told you yet another good one.
Where do you find these things?
On the web, under short scary stories.
Is that legal?
When they say, for public reprint, they are.
Well, I have to admit I do enjoy reading them.
I'm glad you are warming up.
What's that you say?
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. We extend the month of Spooky 2023 yet another week. My crack staff has found another behind-the-scenes horror story from the OTR series, Lights Out.
Would that staff member be you?
No comment. This time, Arch Oboler begs the question, what happens when a coffin salesman comes to the recording studio during a broadcast of the show?
Was that a rhetorical question?
You're not going to believe the answer. Also on the show, we have an edition of These Are Your Stories, and we're going to review the audiobook 50 Real Ghost Stories of First Responders. Pretty good stuff.
Can't beat that combination.
I received a DM this week that I thought I should answer on the show. It comes from Base Endersham, and they write, I heard from a friend of mine that you're thinking about some big changes to the podcast. Should I be worried? Well, I am in discussions with Sylvia Schultz. I can't really say much yet, but it would mean that Ghost Stories with Sylvia could become its very own podcast, and from first impressions, Sylvia loves the idea. It would follow the same format it always has, but with no time restraints. Currently, due to radio requirements, this podcast is limited to 1 hour. More on this as things develop. Now, with that said, let's get to that audiobook review. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Audible has sponsored the show now since July of 2019. We have reviewed more than 140 audiobooks, and the list keeps growing. Did you know that Audible has over 200,000 books available? And a lot of those are included in the free catalog. Audible is amazing, and it is the perfect companion to Ron's Amazing Stories. If you like this podcast, you're going to love Audible. So what am I listening to? 50 Real Ghost Stories of First Responders by Eve Evans and narrated by Mark A. Davis. Do you hate sleep and love real ghost stories? Then this collection is exactly what you're looking for. These stories are unexplainable true accounts from first responders, police officers, firemen, and 911 operators, told from their perspective. Every one of these is 100% true and in some cases fully documented as unexplainable. Here is a clip from the book, and it is a complete story as told by the responding police officer. The story is titled A Miss.
I was sitting in my patrol car, taking a brief lunch break. I had parked across the street from the grocery store since I'd happened to be in the area, and there were plenty of spaces. While I was flicking through the newspaper, eating my lunch, something caught my attention. Ahead of me, standing outside the grocery store, was a woman. She was frantically waving her arms at me, a panicked look on her face, as though she was trying to get my attention. There was something slightly off about her, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it at the time. I remember thinking that she looked unusually pale, to the extent that she was almost translucent, but I figured it must have been a reflection of the light or something making it seem like that. Thinking she might be in some kind of distress, I quickly put down the paper and drove the car over to the grocery store. In those brief few minutes of pulling into the parking lot and heading towards the store, the woman had disappeared. I looked around the area, but I couldn't see her anywhere. No cars had driven off during this time. Assuming she must have gone inside the grocery store, I climbed out of my car and headed inside. I didn't know what to expect. It might have been nothing after all, but as an officer, it was obviously my duty to make sure everything was okay. The moment I stepped inside, I immediately noticed something was off. Everyone looked terrified, some crouching behind the shelves and trying to hide. Nobody even looked my way as I entered. They were all focused on something elsewhere in the store, which I couldn't see. Judging by people's reactions, I knew something was wrong. I drew my weapon and called for backup as quietly as I could, so as not to alarm anyone who might have been armed and dangerous. Moving as swiftly as I could, I crouched behind one of the shelves and peered around. A man was standing in the middle of the aisle waving a gun around. 2 people were lying on the ground at his feet, and I could see a lot of blood around the bodies. A little way behind him was another body, laying half in and half out of the aisle. None of them were moving. I'd warned backup to keep their sirens off and enter quietly, but in the meantime, I had to do what I could to apprehend the subject before there were any more fatalities. Waiting for him to turn his back on me, I moved from my hiding spot and managed to disarm him, pulling his gun out of his hand and warning him not to move. Backup arrived shortly afterwards, and once the suspect had been taken away, we began to assess the fatalities. There were 3 dead and another critically injured. One of the witnesses explained the situation to us. The man had stormed into the store, waving his gun around and shouting something about his girlfriend had cheated on him with another man. We later found out that his girlfriend worked at the grocery store and that she was one of the victims. She had been shot first, and the injuries were too severe. There was no hope in saving her or the other 2 victims. Since the man had a silencer on his gun, nobody outside the store had any idea what was going on. As soon as I saw the girlfriend's face, I felt a strange sense of dread come over me. It was the woman I'd seen outside the grocery store, the one who had been waving frantically at me in distress. But if she had been shot first, then how had she managed to flag me down like that? It was impossible that the woman I'd seen outside was the same woman who was lying dead in the grocery store. But I knew I hadn't made a mistake. To this day, I don't really know what I saw, but I knew my eyes weren't deceiving me. The 2 women were the same. Perhaps it was the spirit of the man's girlfriend warning me about the situation occurring inside. Or maybe it was just something else that I didn't understand. Either way, if it hadn't been for her warning, there may have been more fatalities that day.
First responders with any real time on the job believe in ghosts. They've experienced events that they can't otherwise explain. The same holds true with other professions that deal with injuries, accidents, or death. Police officers, firemen, 911 operators, they've seen the worst that people can do to one another, and they've all had brushes with the unexplainable. Are these spirits, entities, shadows that move, all of the above? Absolutely. Will these stories give you chills and haunt your dreams? Oh, most certainly. This audiobook is one of the better story collections I've ever heard. Each story is read with the proper inflection to make you feel like you're right there experiencing this for yourself. Mark Davis is an excellent narrator and was the perfect choice for this book, and you won't regret giving this one a chance. You can have 50 real ghost stories of first responders for free by heading to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out the service. This also grants you access to the included catalog, which is updated constantly with new stuff. So, to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Thank you, Audible. And now let's get to some of your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
You guys keep sending in your stories and I keep reading them. Just a reminder, if you want to tell your story yourself, that's always an option. Our first story came by telephone. Yes, that age-old contraption that allows you to speak to a person and hear for yourself what they have to say. This one comes from Detroit, Michigan. I had the pleasure to chat with Lori Phelps, who works for a maid service in the Motor City. As a maid, you never really are sure where you're going to work on any given day. They do have regulars and people that ask for them by name, but that's only part of the job. New clients are a daily occurrence, or perhaps they just hire you for a one-time cleanup. That was the case for Lori's story, that she calls a cleaning horror. On my job sheet, I had a new listing for an antique shop in Midtown. Actually, one of the safest parts of the city, and I like to work there. The job was a one-timer, and when I got there, it turned out to be a cleanup of a bathroom and 3 offices that had just been renovated. They were expanding the business to include movie prop sales and had hired new associates. When I arrived, it was already kind of strange. They told me that I was the 3rd maid that had come to attempt the cleanup. I thought maybe the work was too much and asked them to show me what was needed. I was given a tour by the owner himself. As we walked through the building, he described what had been done and what was still needed. It was actually fairly light work. The offices just needed to be cleaned and organized, and the bathroom had been closed for some time, and it was a mess. I decided to start there, and within a few hours had the place spick and span. Before I moved on, I had the owner check my work, and he was very pleased. It was then he asked me if I'd heard any strange noises or had anything happen. I wasn't sure how to answer the question. Nothing strange had happened, but it was kind of icky. You get used to that as a maid. I moved on to the office. I'd been told that it had been used for storage for years and that it didn't smell right. That was an understatement. It stunk of old cigar, rotted animal remains, and who knows what else. It was fumigation that it needs, and I called to have one of the guys come do it. Until he arrived, I set about cleaning and, unfortunately, looking for what was causing the smell. It was then I heard the voice. I turned, thinking the owner had returned, but I was alone. I must be hearing things, I thought, and set back to work. It came again, a kind of moan, like someone was injured. I looked everywhere. I even had the thought that I was on some kind of candid camera thing, but I came up empty again. I was working around the new desk when I felt my head snap back like someone was pulling my hair. "Ouch!" I screamed. The voice came again. I was just about to run out of the room when Rob arrived and said, "Man, does this stink. You find the source?" I told him what had just happened, and he just laughed. That got me to thinking that I had imagined the whole thing. We searched the room again, and this time found a dead thing in the vent. I finished cleaning, and he fumigated the place. The smell was gone, and we left for the day. The next morning I returned to finish the job. I went to the office where we had done the fumigation, and it smelled bright and wonderful. It also felt like a completely different place. The day before, there had been a heaviness that I couldn't explain. It was gone as well. 2 offices to go. The next was straightforward. I cleaned and organized it, and was quite pleased with my work. The owner stopped by and told me how much he appreciated what I had done thus far. It always feels good to have a customer say that. I set up in the last office, and that's where things went really screwy. No sooner had I begun to work when the lights went out. I walked over to the switch, and it was turned off. I turned it back on and was trying to think of how and why when the desk chair rolled across the room by itself. No one was there, and I felt a chill go through my body. I tried to shake it off and get back to work, but I wouldn't be staying any longer. I moved towards the desk, and a shadow blocked my path. I felt it push hard on my chest, and I fell to the floor. Then I screamed. The owner and a few others came running in asking if I was okay. I remember getting up and sprinting out of the room. I didn't stop there. I grabbed my stuff, went out the door, and made my way to the closest subway entrance. I never returned. Lori Phelps, Detroit, Michigan. Lori returned to the home office and was expecting to be chewed out for leaving. That didn't happen. All she was told was how happy the customers were with her work and that she was welcome back anytime. Later, she got curious and called the antique shop. She was told that the office was converted back to being a storeroom, and nobody likes to go in there. Lori, it was a pleasure to chat with you, and thank you for your story. It is amazing. Our second story comes all the way from Honolulu, Hawaii. Well, not all that far away, it seems like another world to me. A place I want to be. Our story is called Reflections of Me and was sent in by Bethany Hamilton. Hello, Ron. Thank you for the show. I have a short tale I hope you can use. Here it is. I was out walking in the local park. There are a lot of these greenways in Hawaii. We had just had a heavy rain, and that is my favorite time to walk because there's always standing water everywhere and things feel so clean. It was bright and sunny. As I walked, I had a strange sensation. I suddenly became aware that I was alive. I can't explain, but for an instant I knew that it was a fact. It was quickly replaced with another feeling that I wasn't alone. I looked around me, but there was no one there. I continued my walk, and I happened to glance over at a pool of water. Walking with me was a man. I couldn't make out any features, and the image wasn't reversed. By that I mean it looked like he was part of the water. I glanced up to look around me again, and I was still alone. I wasn't scared. In fact, I felt at peace. When I looked back to the pool once more, the image was gone. I told my husband what happened. He is a photographer and said it was just a trick of the bright sun and reflection, nothing more. I don't think so, but I don't know what I saw. Bethany Hamilton, Honolulu, Hawaii. Well, Bethany, I don't know what you saw either. Reflections can be a funny animal, but usually there is no doubt that they are just reflections. This seems like something more. Perhaps a passerby from another dimension. Who can say, except, thank you for your story. Our last story is another orb tale. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. Of all the paranormal type tales out there, these and Bigfoot are some of my favorites. It was sent in by Gennaro Winslow from Dayton, Ohio. Hey Ron, I want to tell you about my experience from a few years ago. I've told this story countless times, and I've even posted it online. Background: my dad's house is new. We built it ourselves. At the time this story takes place, it was barely a year old. Our land, however, is very old. We've seen ghosts there before, and lots of weird stuff happens. It's also a bit swampy. It goes from a grassy field to a swampy woods pretty fast on the south end of our land, and that is the area where my window faces. So, on with the story. I was 10 or 11 lying in bed one night. My dad was on a business trip, and I was home alone with my mom. Being a 10-year-old, I didn't really like sleeping all that much, but I was trying at least. I looked out my window above the forest, and I see a floating blue orb. The logical part of my brain kicks in. Is my uncle spotlighting a raccoon? No, it's a blue light, not a yellow-white light. What is this? I look at it for a minute before I run to get my mom. She was up late reading a novel, so I pulled her back into my room and told her to look at the orb. It, of course, had disappeared. She told me it was my overactive imagination and tucked me into bed again. I rolled over dejected, still unable to sleep. I'm going to guess about 10 minutes later, no clock, no phone, I look outside again and the orb is back, but a little closer. It's hovering in front of the trees and a bit lower. It's not any brighter, just closer. So I ran to get my mom again, who's still awake. By the time we get back to my room, it's gone again. This happened a few more times. Each time, the orb was getting closer. My mom had gotten very annoyed with me and told me not to bother her again after the 4th or 5th time. I'm still lying in bed looking out the window when it appears directly outside the glass. I'm frozen in fear. What is it? What did it want? Was it going to hurt me? Why? It floated through my window and into my room. It was an orb, but it was not completely illuminating my room. It was just a faint glow. It keeps floating closer to me until it's at the foot of my bed, and then I black out. I wake up some time later. The moon was still in the same general location, so not too long. I run to my window to see if the orb is still there, but instead I'm greeted with a flash of memory from some other time. A boy, my age, short blonde hair, green eyes, a smile, a storm, and darkness. The next thing I remember is hitting the floor and waking up the next morning. This isn't the first time I saw that boy. I've seen him before, in a dream, when I was a little girl. But I won't get into that here, since that was a dream and not a real encounter. I told my grandmother about the orb later on. She said she had a similar experience with a red orb. Gennaro Winslow, Dayton, Ohio. Amazing story, Gennaro. I've heard many stories about orbs, and none of them have ever been negative. This, you could argue, is borderline, but reading between the lines, I got the impression that you had a fondness for that boy in your dream. Also, the fact that your grandmother had a similar experience adds much to its credibility. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Our creepy story for today is called The Coffin in Studio B, and as you might have guessed, comes from Arch Oboler and the series Lights Out. I'd never actually heard this one before. It's another behind-the-scenes look at the show with some extreme horror thrown in for good measure. Oboler and company face a coffin salesman in a recording studio. Sounds crazy? Well, which would you pick? Gold or silver handles for your mahogany casket? This amazing story was recorded on July 7th, 1946.
Lights out. Everybody. This is the witching hour. It is the hour when dogs howl and evil is let loose on a sleeping world. Want to hear about it? Then turn out your lights. Lights out.
And what will you do if I won't? Something very unpleasant, my dear chap.
For example?
For example, it is quite possible that I will kill you.
You amaze me.
No. I assure you I'm quite serious.
It's impossible.
Not impossible at all.
May I ask just how you propose to, end my life, shall I say?
I shall cut your throat. Neatly, and as the books have it, with dispatch.
You've been reading books, then?
We're wasting time. What's the answer?
The answer is the same as it has always been.
You refuse, then?
I refuse, yes.
Very well. You force me to become a murderer.
Cut. Look, I don't want to throw you up on this first reading, but not much is coming through in here. I don't know just how to say it, but it just doesn't gel for some reason or other. Now, let's think about these lines. Well, let's hold it a minute.
What's the matter, George? Who is it, me or Ed?
Well, I hate to throw you up on this first reading, but, Fritz, I think it's you. Something wrong. It's the attack on the part, or maybe you're throwing those lines away without any sincerity. There's no menace in the part. You see what I mean? Well, look, let me come on out. Hammond again, eh, Fritz?
Okay, character. Let it alone. I'm having enough trouble.
Look, he can act. Honest, George. Fella's got a card. All right, let's can the funny stuff, Ed. We got some work to do, and I want you to just pay attention, if you don't mind. All right. Look, Fritz, how do you feel in this thing?
I don't know. It's not right. I don't know what to do, though.
Well, you don't sound convincing. You see my point?
Yeah.
Have you got any ideas on how you might do it?
No. Oh, wait a minute. What about dialect? I could do a little German.
German? Wait a minute. No. I don't think I want any German on this thing. I hear too much of that. Some Austrian? No, that's too close to German.
I don't know.
How's your French? Let's see how your French is.
Oh, it's all right.
No. Look, I don't want to make him too definite. See, he should be a kind of a combination. A lot of menace in there. Quiet, but I got to believe the guy. Make him, let's see, what's that word? I want him to...
Continental.
That's it. Just not too much now. Just a whiff of continental, okay?
Let me try it, yeah.
All right, we'll try it now from the top, huh? Let's
right.
Go. Okay. And what will you do if I won't?
Something very unpleasant, my dear chap.
For example?
For example, it is quite possible that I will kill you.
You amaze me.
I assure you I am quite serious.
Okay, hold it.
How's it doing now? How's it sound?
Are you asking me or the director? Well, it sounds a lot better than it did before. I think you'll work into it. Yeah, well, look, Fritz, I think that'll do it. What do you say we put it up on the mic and let's see how it sounds? Take that whole scene over.
How is it for age, George?
Oh, the age is okay. I want a little bit of age, not too much age.
All right, just
about right.
Right
on the nose the way you have it.
All right.
Oh, rehearsals. Well, it beats digging ditches for a living, I guess.
Oh, does it?
So they tell me.
Well, anyway, it's cool in here. Thank the Lord for air conditioning.
I wish it was 9:30. Okay, characters, now give me that after number 5 now, will you? And let's hear it again from the top. And what will you do if I won't?
Something very unpleasant, my dear chap.
For example?
For example, it is quite possible I will kill you.
You amaze me.
I assure you I am quite serious.
Possible?
Not impossible at all.
May I ask just how you propose to end my life, shall I say?
I shall cut your throat. Neatly, and as the books have it, with dispatch.
Oh, you've been reading books, then.
We are wasting time. What's the answer?
The answer is the same as it has always been.
You refuse, then?
I refuse, yes.
Very well. You force me to become a murderer.
Look, Fritz, you sound about as much like a murderer as... Oh, I give up.
Oh, for the love of Mike, George, what do you want me to do? Growl?
No, I don't want you to growl. But I do want you, if you won't find it too inconvenient, to act just a little bit like a murderer. You know, a murderer, a guy that kills people.
Yeah.
We want you to make faces, Fritz.
Ah, shut up.
Wait, I'll come out there again. How you doing, kid?
I give up. I don't know what the man wants.
Now listen, sweetheart, have you the faintest idea how a guy acts when he's going to kill somebody? Have you?
No, but I got a hunch I'm going to know about it in a minute.
Oh, well, that'll be swell. Because the way you're doing it now, a guy'd think that you're Ed's brother or something.
Oh,
now listen, get it through your thick skull that we got a show in a few minutes. We're going on the air, radio, remember, you see? You're supposed to be a murderer.
I know, but it's going to come a lot easier if you
Oh,
only
you
give me
can't take it, huh?
Oh, nuts.
All right, well, let's try it again. Take it from that line. The answer is the same as it has always been, Ed. Go on.
All right. The answer is the same as it has always been.
You refuse? Pardon me. You refuse, then.
Hey, George.
Now what?
Well, what do you want?
There's an old gent out here wants to see you.
What's he want?
I don't know.
Well, tell him to go away. No, wait. Who is he?
I don't know.
How can I keep a character?
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder.
And he says he wants to see Ed, not you.
Who is he?
Won't give his name.
Probably some guy that you owe money to.
You should talk. Well, look, tell him. Well, listen, we're right in the middle of a rehearsal.
Go ahead and talk to him, Ed. We can smoke a cigarette or play tiddlywinks.
Oh.
But listen, you tell him to make it snappy. We got a show to get on.
All right. Tell him to come in here, Horace.
Go right in.
Well, there you are, Mr. Henley. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Why, I don't believe I've ever had...
Don't know me, eh? Well, I know you, Mr. Henley. Mr. Ed Henley, yes, sir.
He owes the old guy dough, all right.
I'm afraid I don't know
I come up to show you my book. I figured you'd like to have a look at it now while you have the chance, just in case you had any choice. Folks don't often have the choice, you know.
Choice? Choice of what?
Now, here, let me show you the book. I won't be a minute. I don't like to disturb your work, you know, but it's got to be done, I guess. Now, this one here...
Ye gods. Coffin.
What? Coffins?
Look, the catalog of coffins.
Caskets.
Huh?
Yes, that's right. Yes, sir, the neatest line of caskets in the country. And nothing but the best. No, sir. Now, looky here. This number, A1436, ain't it? Yes. All gray silk, solid silver handle.
Say, listen, what is this?
Or this model, A5499 in mahogany.
Wait a minute, mister. What's this all about?
Why, I just figured Mr. Henley'd kind of like to pick himself out a casket.
Well, who are you?
So I brought up the book here to show him. I got my tape measure right here in my pocket.
It's a rib, George. Somebody sent him up here.
Oh, yeah?
No, nobody sent me. I just thought Mr. Henley...
Well, look, Mr. Henley's busy. We're rehearsing a radio show here, and we've got just a few more minutes before we go on the air. So if you don't mind...
I know. You're rehearsing lights out. I know all about it. Listen, every Saturday night. I like it. All about ghosts and corpses and things. Yes, sir.
Well, that's fine, but we've got work to do now.
Well, I'll get right out of here. Just as soon as Mr. Henley makes up his mind. Now, this A1436 that I was showing
Listen,
you...
mister, I don't want to buy a coffin. I've got no use for one. Do you get me?
Solid silver handles.
George, this guy's screwing.
Oh, no, sir. Now, wait. I got some pictures here in colors, if you like something a little fancier. Just a minute, how do I find it?
Fritz, go get Horace and have him get this old gent out of here. I think the old guy's crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Mister, did somebody send you up here to see Ed Henley?
Send me? No, sir. I told you I thought it up my own self. Now, this here H6782 with the bronze plate on top. How do you like that? Pretty nifty, ain't it? Yes, sir.
Listen, I've told you I don't want a coffin.
You can have it with solid silver plate, if you like that better.
If I were you, Ed, I'd get the one with the silver plate.
Huh? Oh, yes. Yeah, I'd rather like that one with the silver plate. That's the one, all right.
H6782A with solid silver plate. Yes, sir. Well, that's all I wanted to know. Yes, sir. That's what I come up here for. Thank you kindly, Mr. Henley. I think you'll find it very satisfactory.
Sure I will.
And thank you, sir. I'll be going now. Thank you ever so much. Sorry to interrupt you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Mr. Henley.
Well, I wonder what goes with that guy.
Whose idea was that?
No. It's all right, Fritz. He's gone now. We don't need you, Horace.
Huh? Where'd he go?
Well, he just went out that door a minute ago. Didn't you see him?
No.
He must have went the other way.
He went out that door right there.
Oh, that's funny. We didn't see him.
Listen, Horace, was that your idea?
Mine? Gosh, no.
Hey, I know. It was one of the announcers. Wisecracking guys.
I don't think it was so funny myself. Not at this time of night with nobody else in the whole place.
How'd you get rid of him, Ed?
Oh, the old guy was showing us coffin after coffin, and I suggested to Ed that he buy number H6783A.
With solid silver plate.
So she said okay, and it's grand. Leave it to me to handle the screwy guys. I've had experience enough producing shows around here.
Thank you, dear. You birds want me anymore?
No, Horace. Thanks. Oh, if you see old Joe Coffin Seller again, though, tell him we're not in the market. Now, come on, let's get to work.
Yeah, it's about time.
Where do we start?
There on page 6, line 5. The answer is the same and so on, you know.
All right. The answer is the same as it has always been.
You refuse, then, huh?
I refuse, yes.
That's the next time true. Very well, then. You forced me to become a murderer.
No, you forced me to become a murderer.
You forced me to become a murderer.
Go on.
I don't know.
You know the penalty for murder in this country? Put down that knife.
You have had your last chance.
Oh. No, don't kill me.
I warned
don't.
you. I warned you, but you would not listen to me.
Cut.
Oh, what?
Now, listen, we got to plant that knife somehow.
Oh, holy smokes, George, I can't say. I am now about to stab you with this here repulsive knife, can I?
Well, that's the trouble with writers. No imagination. You see now.
Well, I could say drop the knife again.
No, let me think. Shut up.
Sorry.
Oh, I got it. Oh, look, why do sound effects guys have to go on vacations? Is there a knife out there someplace?
I don't know. I'll look over here. Let's see. Ah, here's one.
Well, what kind is it?
Pocket knife. I think I'll just drop it in my pocket, too. I've been wanting a knife like this.
Well, let's see it.
I got 10 dibs on it.
Well, now, look. You hold it up close to the microphone and open it. Make it click. And I'll go to the control room and listen.
Very well, Olson.
It'll probably sound like a door opening.
So what? It's more than the door opening gag we got, sounds like.
All right, let's hear it now. Open it up. No, not so loud. Try it again. Okay. Now, Fritz, you put that effect in just as you start to struggle. Give me it.
What? No, help, that business?
Yes.
No.
You would not listen to me?
Stab him!
Oh, yeah, okay.
You better fall down on the floor, Ed. It'll sound better.
Why is it I always have to do the falls?
Go on.
Nuts. Okay.
Okay. Now, how are we going to ring that gong? Oh, I don't see why we can't get some help on this show.
Why don't you get Horace?
Well, that's an idea. I'll go get him.
Oh, gosh, I'm tired. I was here at 9 this morning for an audition, and I haven't even had time to get any dinner.
Actors, the idle rich.
Says you. Say, who do you suppose sent that dilly old bird up here?
I don't know. A lot of funny jokers around the shop.
That was a good gag for this show, I guess. Except I don't suppose it'll be so funny for the old gent when he finds out it was a gag.
Yeah, I don't imagine it's a very good racket running around peddling coffins.
I never even knew they peddled coffins that way.
Neither did I.
I was reading.
The genius.
You'll have plenty of time to catch up on your reading after the show's over. I want you to sock that gong.
All you got to do is take the little club and clout the gong when George points at you, Horace.
If George points at you, Horace.
Listen, who's producing the show?
I sometimes wonder.
Where's the stick to hit it with?
You are practically standing on it.
Huh? Oh.
All right, now look, I'll go in the control room, and you guys go on into the fight. Now, you watch me, Horace, and when I point, you sock that gong.
Okay.
Oh, George, listen, do we have to go through the whole thing again? My throat.
No, just the struggle part. Now, wait till I get in.
Hit it a good bat, Horace.
Okay.
Okay, struggle. Well, pay attention, dummy. Will you hit that gong?
Oh. Excuse me, I was watching Ed and Fritz.
Well, look, you watch me from now on. I'll give you the cues, and you do them. You got it?
Okay.
Go ahead, struggle. Okay, now, you do it just like that on the air. You got it?
Okay. Oh, I I gotta go, George. The phone's ringing in the lobby.
Well, hurry up. We're practically on the air.
How we doing?
Oh, I wish I had a cigarette.
No smoking in the studios.
Speak when spoken to. I was talking to Fritz.
Oh, well, there's still no smoking in the studios.
Oh, brother. Want to go get something to eat after the show, Ed?
Oh, not me. I'm going to be dead.
I'm dragging, too. I'm going sailing with Jake tomorrow.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Well, you can help it.
Okay, George, I'm back.
Well, look, come on, will you? Come on.
Hey, you know who that was?
Sure, somebody wanting to know what time Fred Waring's on.
No, it wasn't.
Come on, will you? Can the guessing games? Let's go.
It was the old coffin guy. He wanted to know if Mr. Henley wanted a silver or a bronze plate on his coffin.
What'd you tell him?
Silver, I said. Nothing cheap about Mr. Henley, I said.
Listen, you oughtn't to kid the old guy like that. He's just a poor, harmless old bird. Besides, the first thing you know, somebody will be knocking at my door, delivering a coffin, and collecting money for it.
Trying to collect, you mean?
Now, listen, you lugs. If you want to play comedy, you put the bite on Don McNeil, will you? You're wasting your time over on this side. Now, let's go to work. Now, if that old guy calls up again, you tell him to go jump in the lake. Now, come on, look at page 10. We won't have time to take a dress. Top of the page. I want running footsteps, all three of you. Across the studio floor, up the stair steps. You stop and run back down. You got it? On my cue. Okay, hurry up now. Now, take the knock on the door and the footsteps coming in. It's bottom of page 11. You do the knock, Ed. Horace, you open the door. And Fritz, you do the footsteps. You got it? On my cue. Okay, keep it that way. She's coming right up now. Fritz, you do the wind machine.
Right, George.
Ed, you do the chime.
Okay.
Horace, you sock that gong.
Right, George.
On your toes now. At my cue, Fritz. Quiet, everyone. 5 seconds.
Lights out. Everybody. This is the witching hour. It is the hour when dogs howl and evil is let loose on a sleeping world. Want to hear about it? Then turn out your lights.
Ah, good evening, my dear friend.
Good evening, Doctor.
Won't you come in?
Thank you.
Here, let me take your coat and hat.
Oh, certainly. There you are, Doctor.
Ah, won't you come in and sit down?
Thank you.
Well,
It's all taken care of.
really?
Quite.
You have the proof?
Well,
Of course, you realize, my dear friend, I cannot be expected to carry out our little arrangement unless I have proof.
yes, I was reasonably sure of that.
And so?
There is a hat crumpled in the left-hand pocket of my overcoat.
A hat?
His hat. I think you'll find that it has a bullet hole through the crown, and there are several bloodstains.
Oh, fine. You don't mind if I look for myself?
Oh, of course not. That's why I brought it, you see.
Yes. Ah, apparently a very neat job.
I specialize in neat jobs, Doctor.
Do you mind telling me how it was done?
Not at all. I waited for him in the driveway of his house. Cold, too, tonight. He left his car at the gate and walked up to the house. We had planned on that, you remember?
Yes.
And when he came close enough, I shot him.
Oh, so noisy.
There was a silencer on the revolver.
Thoughtful of you.
I'm always thoughtful, Doctor.
Excellent.
I even stepped close enough to him to ensure powder burn.
Better and better.
And the revolver is there, without the silencer, to make it look like suicide. So.
I congratulate you, my dear friend.
Thank you. I am conscientious.
Are you conscientious enough to remember what I asked you to bring?
Yes, quite.
May I have it?
I think not.
What you say?
I came here tonight merely to thank you, Doctor, for your cooperation. I find myself a richer man.
I hope you are joking, my friend.
Not at all.
You don't want to give up the packet of jewels?
I couldn't have put it more neatly myself, Doctor.
I see. You have not forgotten that I paid you a sum of money to perform this service for me?
$500.
That is correct.
That is why I came here.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
To return the $500. You see, Doctor, I have decided to keep the jewels instead.
I see. Would you care for a drink?
Brandy, perhaps.
If you like. Water?
Thank you, no.
Your health?
If you don't mind, Doctor, let us exchange glasses.
You are a remarkably suspicious man.
I have to be. If you please.
Oh, quite.
I thought so, Doctor. Well, your good health. And now I'll be going, if you don't mind.
Oh, must you go, really?
Yes. Here are your $500.
My offer is still good.
Your offer?
$500 for eliminating this man and bringing me the jewels from his pocket.
Oh. I'm sorry not to be able to accept your offer, Doctor. I've made other arrangements, you see.
May I point out that you left your revolver at our friend's side?
May I point out that it is extremely possible that I have another?
Possible?
Probable.
Shall we have another drink?
May I pour?
If you like. Enough. Thank you. Now, shall we discuss this further?
I'm afraid there is very little to discuss, Doctor.
If you do not mind, I would...
No, there is nothing to discuss. I'm grateful to you, my dear Doctor, for putting me in the way of earning the very comfortable sum that these jewels will bring. I'm equally grateful to you for your hospitality. But I really must go.
Oh, I beg of you. Let me point out that a gentleman of your reputation might have some difficulty in disposing of the jewels.
There are ways.
Would it not be a great deal safer for you to take the $500 with no further risk than to keep the jewels and run the risk of hanging?
I'll take the risk. Besides, if anything unpleasant does happen to me in the course of disposing of the jewels, I can always remind my captors of the part that you played in this little affair. You see?
I'm afraid you would have a very difficult time proving that.
Perhaps. But I'll run the risk. Good night.
Don't hurry, I beg of you. I should dislike to have any unpleasant happening.
You forget that I have a revolver, Doctor.
That is a lie.
I wouldn't take a chance if I were you, Doctor.
I'm not taking a chance. I know you have no revolver.
Really?
Really.
Interesting. How?
A very simple process of deduction. There is none in your overcoat. I could tell by the weight of it.
But there is.
Thank you. I was rather certain that it was there. And so I took the liberty of locking your overcoat in the closet when I got up to inspect our friend's hats. Checkmate, my dear friend.
Stalemate, I think. I still have the jewels.
And I warn you for the last time to give them to me.
I'm sorry.
It would be a great deal better for you if you would, you know.
What will you do if I won't?
Something very unpleasant, my dear friend.
For example?
It is quite possible I will kill you.
You amaze me.
I assure you I am quite serious.
Impossible.
It is not impossible at all.
May I ask just how you propose to, end my life, shall I say?
I shall cut your throats, neatly and as the books have it, with dispatch.
You've been reading books, then.
Come, you're wasting time. What's the answer?
The answer is the same as it has always been.
You refuse, then?
I refuse, yes.
Very well. You force me to become a murderer.
You know the penalty for murder in this country, Doctor? Put down that knife.
You have had your last chance.
No. No, don't kill me.
I warned you. I warned you.
No.
You would not listen to me. Ed, you. Ed, you stabbed me, Fritz. Oh, my God. Horace, look. The knife slipped. I didn't mean to cut him. I cut him.
Blood. You've really killed him, Fritz.
Oh, no. No, I just got here in time, didn't I? Yes, sir. Model 86782 with silver plate for Mr. Henley. No! Yes, sir. Just bring it right in, boys. Mr. Henley's all ready for it.
You have just heard The Coffin in Studio B. In tonight's cast, you heard Bob Murphy as Ed, Sherman Marks as Fritz, Don Gallagher as George, Jack Bivens as Horace, and Charles Eggleston as the coffin salesman.
All right. You can turn them on now.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Well, I hope you found that one as much fun as I did. It turns out that recording was part of the revival series of shows that they did in the summer of 1946. There were 8 in all. From what I could find out, they picked 8 of their very favorite shows and redid them. It's not clear how much Arch Oboler had to do with the project, and it was probably run by Willis Cooper. He was the man that actually created Lights Out and gave it to Oboler in June of 1936. Now, you might be asking why we haven't played any of Willis Cooper's shows. Well, that's because only one recording survives from Cooper's run. And I have to say it isn't very scary, or for that matter, any good. Although years later Lights Out would be closely associated with Oboler, he was always quick to credit Cooper as the series creator and spoke very highly of him, calling him the unsung pioneer of radio dramatic technique, and the first person that Oboler knew who understood that radio drama could be art. How about that? Well, that was episode number 616, and this time we have to thank Lori Phelps, Bethany Hamilton, and Gennaro Winslow for making this podcast happen. Truly amazing. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button helps us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.